What defines who you are is his love for you. Brothers and sisters, may the Lord give you his peace. Father Malachy here with you again. And this week, I just want to speak about the weight of mercy, just something God has brought up in my own prayer recently, and how it is that God sees you and how he sees me. I was remembering years ago when I was serving down in Nicaragua, immediately after my priestly ordination back during the pandemic in 2020, and was serving as a chaplain at a local prison there as part of my ministry. And so we would go once a week, we'd have mass for the inmates that wanted to come. And then we also would have often a priest hearing confessions. And one of those weeks I was there, and sometimes people didn't really want to necessarily go to confession. They just wanted to talk to a priest. And I remember this time when a woman came and we were there, and this woman came and she just sat down and she just started to share her story with me. When you're in prison and you're doing prison ministry, you meet all sorts of people, right? And sometimes you meet people that are there because of just a sequence of events that unfolded. Some people are there because they've been unjustly condemned. But in this case, the woman was sharing with me like she was there because of some horrific things that she had done. And as she spoke about them, her posture changed. She just kind of began to lean down. And as she was leaning down, she was dropping her head and she wouldn't look at me in the eyes. And she just went on and on about all these things that she had done. And all these things and this like the anger and the like fierce rage and desires for revenge and so much inside of her that was just like weighed down in this moment. And in that moment, God gave me a grace, which he's given at times, which is just to see her as he sees her. Like she couldn't see herself in that moment for who she really was. The only thing she could see was like through her shame and just like this hatred of her life and who she was, something that was loathsome, someone who deserved to suffer and to be punished. But in that moment, like as I was looking at her, it was as if like the veil just parted for a moment. And when it parted, I just saw this beautiful daughter of the Father, this child who was so loved and who had been through so much suffering in her own life, and just realized the immensity of God's love for her was just reaching out. And in that moment, I just stopped her and I started to just speak to her the truth about who she was in God's eyes. And you could see this change is at first she's listening and I'm just talking to her about like, this is not who you are. This is what you may have done, but who you are is a beloved child of God. And so as I was speaking this to her and allowing this like just truth to wash over her, she started to slowly change in her physical posture. She began to sort of like rest. She started to raise her eyes occasionally to look at me and then look back down and look at me, as if there was something inside of her that was like not able to comprehend or uncertain of what it was that was being said. And is she the one that I'm talking to? Is this really how God sees her? You know, and it reminded me of just what that experience must have been like in the story of the Prodigal Son, where he came with an identity that was built upon his sin and tried to present that to God, and God just cut right through it. And he cut right through it with a bear hug, right? He cut right through it with a cloak and with sandals and a ring. He cut right through it with this love and this mercy that just comes as this weight upon us in this place where we have just dropped into like just the condemnation that we experience from the enemy, from the world, a world that doesn't know what mercy looks like. And as I was reflecting on that, reflecting on my own experience of just struggling to receive this mercy and understand this mystery. And there was something I was wrestling with recently with the Lord and something that I wrote that I wanted to just share, kind of a bit of a spoken word, reflecting on what is this experience like to really allow myself to be seen by God in those places of poverty, of brokenness, of shame, of failure, and to begin to open my heart to allowing him to love me the way that he desires. And so I was just reflecting the other morning at a time of prayer. I just wrote this: running from the sun, but dawn keeps pouring over the earth, down, down, further into the shadows, afraid of the light and heat. It feels like death, this birth of a new day. My heart suffocates under the weight of mercy, holding my breath, waiting for it to break and release me from its powerful and tender embrace. What is this? Get away. Leave me alone. I know what it's like to be alone. That's life. This presence, though, being with another, being looked at that way, why won't you stop looking at me that way? Don't you know who I am? Don't you know what I've done? Get away. Look at me like the rest. Look at me like I deserve. Look at me like I look at myself. Where are the rest? They've all left, and only a pile of stones, and dawn's light is here. No hands to throw, no eyes to condemn, no voices to shame, but I am here. My heart doesn't know what to do with you. This doesn't make sense. Is this mercy? I could see in that young woman's eyes in Nicaragua this look of confusion as she has brought the worst of who she is out into the light. And then the Father is responding with this love, this way of seeing her that she's not experienced being seen before. Maybe in your own life, that's been your experience. Maybe there are places of darkness, of sin, of shame, of brokenness, of failure that feel like these are the things that define who you are, but that's not true. That's a lie. What defines who you are is His love for you. That you have not lost the goodness that was given to you when He created you from nothing, but created you for Himself. And this young woman, it was beautiful to see, because before this day, whenever we came from Mass, she would stand sort of outside and occasionally look through the window. And after this day, and thank you, Jesus, she was able to receive the sacrament of reconciliation. She was able to receive the mercy through that gift of confession. But after that day, do you know where she was? She was in the front row. Every single time we showed up for Mass, she was in the front row, smiling from ear to ear, like that little girl that she actually was. Mercy has to restore us, but it restores us through a sort of death. But what dies is not us, but the lies that have been laid upon us. And as that dies, that truth, that love, that embrace, the Father, like with the prodigal son, comes in and He makes us new. He restores hope. He restores the truth of our dignity, and He begins to look at us in the way that actually we do deserve to be looked at. Because the reality is we don't see ourselves in the full light of the truth until we see ourselves being looked at with those eyes of mercy by God. We don't know the full truth of our dignity and our goodness until we've allowed ourselves to be overwhelmed by the weight of His mercy. And that, brothers and sisters, is the good news. That no matter how you come before Him, what awaits you is always mercy. This is our God. This is Jesus, whose footsteps we continue to follow. So brothers and sisters, want to keep on that way. And if this is something that you found helpful, just encourage you to share it with someone else, because there are so many who have not yet experienced being looked at that way. And I don't know about you, but I think our world could use a heck of a lot more mercy. God bless.